My name is Benton Stokes. I'm a former fundamentalist, post-evangelical worship leader, and songwriter. I enjoy wry Manhattans, roller coasters, and road trips, just not all at the same time.
I'm Elane O'Rourke, and I'm a teacher, an author, and a spiritual coach. I was a philosophy professor and a liberal pastor in a couple of former lives, and these days, I love aha moments and not-so-dry martinis.
We have conversations about life and God with a queer perspective, over cocktails, like you. This is Cocktail Theology.
This is literally the color of the pond at our old house.
It really is.
And it's like, I don't know how many chemicals I put into that pond, how many fish, not at the same time as the chemicals, how many fountains, how many clarifiers, how many everything. It was always this color.
It was.
So what are you planning on calling this particular really opaque cocktail?
The Murky Matcha Mint Mocktail.
Murky Matcha Mint Mocktail. Okay, I've got it.
It is matcha. Mm-hmm. And actually, the flavor of the matcha is not coming through as strongly as I expected.
No, it's not. That's interesting because I made double strength matcha.
Oh. But it's lime, mint, matcha, and some agave. Yeah.
Okay.
It's tasty.
I like it. I would actually drink it. But it's ugly. It is seriously ugly. It is like Swamp Thing ugly.
I don't know what this color is reminding me of besides,
Well, it's kind of somewhere between an avocado green and an army green.
Yeah, maybe I don't know, maybe it's avocado.
But it's definitely Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Swamp Thing. Maybe we just call it the Swamp Thing mocktail.
Well, that's not helpful though because it helps to know there's matcha and there's mint in it.
That's true.
But it's definitely murky. Hey, if you want to make a murky cocktail, send us a note and we'll give you the how.
That's right.
The how and the what.
And this one, if I didn't say already, is 0 proof.
Yeah, we're doing the month of mocktail. I started to say the month of Murk, which we may be doing as well, but that's not the goal. The month of Mock. There we go. The month
of Mock.
There we go.
Yeah.
What are we talking about today?
We were having a conversation about churches, local churches,
yes,
local congregations.
Yep.
The question came up, how do you know when it's time to move on from a local church? There used to be a time, I remember when I was a kid, like in the little church that I grew up in, there were people that had been in that church for 60 years, right. 70 years, like they'd spent their whole lives there, they'd gotten married there, their babies were baptized there, like everything happened in this church. And I don't feel like that's the way we think about church anymore.
Not even a little.
It seems to me that we leave churches for all kinds of reasons. Mm-hmm. Some of them are legit, some of them frankly aren't. But at the end of the day, the local church needs to be a place where you find teaching, where you find fellowship, community, where you find opportunities to serve. Things like that should all, I think, be a part of what a person, if I were looking to plug into a local church, those are things that I feel like I should be looking for. So when a church, I don't know, stops providing one of those things, then I'm not saying that it's time to move on. It may be time for you to step up.
Thank you.
But I think that's when you need to pay attention to how is the church serving me and how am I serving this church?
Right. Yeah, I admit I have a very wide range of feelings about this, partly as a former pastor, partly as somebody who attends a church and I consider it adjunct to my church. but I wouldn't consider it my church, mm-hmm. and I wouldn't consider it my church home.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we can start from a different place. I think what you just said about that idea of the generational church is definitely something that a lot of us grew up with. And certainly when you went to your grandfather's funeral, there was that sense of generational church, right?
Most definitely, yes.
I think individual churches, not denominations, like mm-hmm. not being Anglican.
Right.
But individual churches stopped being generational when people started moving around. I remember when I was pastoring, people used to get really big on, we need to have children's programming because They are our future. And I was like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
If all these kids were here, stay right here for the rest of their lives, I'm going to be concerned.
Right.
So that notion of a community that isn't mobile, that's gone in most places.
Yeah.
So that idea of a generational church is therefore gone in most places.
Right. Just basically as a function of how we live these days.
Exactly.
People are not staying in the same community for their entire lives.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So if you live in a small town and your family's always lived there and there are two churches in town and you get pissed at one, you go to the other, and you get pissed at that one, you go back to the other, you probably should look at you and not the churches.
Yes.
That said, given that we don't expect churches to be the home base for generations of our family or for our entire town, for most of us, probably most people listening here don't have a town with a couple of churches. Mm-hmm. Then the question is, for me, well, what is church for? Not what is worship for, but what is church for?
Yeah.
And you just named a few things, right? There's worship, there's teaching, and so you said something about the church should provide
Fellowship, community.
Right. And then the ability to serve, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. I think that ideally what church is supposed to do, and I'm not sure there are very many churches that do this, but ideally they are training grounds for being good Jesus followers.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is there is a pattern that has been developed of study, sharing, vulnerability, admission of error, forgiveness for error, just like as part of the fabric of the place. Mm-hmm. Like the best possible family, except without the family drama, right?
Yeah.
Now, I don't think any of those exist, or at least not very many. Mm-hmm. But for me, that's part of the point, is it's the place to practice the presence of God, the place to practice being in relationship with people who will forgive you, the place to go when the rest of your relationships are screwing up, and get decent advice and admonition.
Yeah.
You know, not just, oh, but hey, have you thought about maybe it's you? You know what I mean? Whatever the thing is. I think churches should be both a place or a set of people, it doesn't have to be a place, but a set of people who challenge us, and challenge us because they know we can be better, not because they think they're superior to us.
Right.
So there's something about all those things that I think are part of church. Now the question is whether people actually care about any of that anymore. And the cynic in me says, yeah, not so much. Not really. You know, not really. I don't know why people go to church. Notice the language I'm using. I'm using it deliberately. Go to church anymore, as opposed to participate in church, be part of a church community.
Right. During the COVID lockdown, when churches weren't really gathering at all, except online, I think people either decided just to watch at home, or they just decided, you know, it's just not that important to me anymore.
Right.
And of course, there are plenty of statistics that support the idea that churches are dying.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that we as a culture don't value church. Like Americans talk about being a Christian nation, but the numbers show that we don't as a nation value church.
Right.
We just don't.
And we've talked in other episodes about whether communal worship is critical to being a follower of Jesus. Mm-hmm.
You teach a really great course on church history, and one of the things that you bring up is that in the middle 20th century, churches sort of served as community centers, community hubs, places where people went to play basketball and to have AA meetings and to have, you know, socials and potlucks and all kinds of things. It was like the community hub, and that's the same way the church in my grandfather's little community functions. It is the community hub. So when that was the church, then the church felt compelled to, understandably, to meet so many needs. Churches built gymnasiums.
Yes.
They created facilities that were, almost like YMCA's,
Yes.
more than places of worship.
Sure.
And no fault. That
Yeah.
was a need that they saw, and they tried to meet it. And that's not the way we live anymore. And so churches don't serve that purpose the way they used to. We don't go there to meet those needs. And the social aspects, we could talk about social media and Facebook and all the stuff where people, isolate. So the idea of going to church is like you're sitting next to strangers and you're having to talk to people and you're having to, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it feels like as a society, we've just sort of evolved or devolved, however you want to look at it, away from the idea that we need to physically meet together, centered around, even if it's just a community, let alone around an ideology.
Okay, I hear you. I never thought I'd be arguing for church, but what about? So I don't think that local churches are about an ideology. I don't think they are. I don't think they should be. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe the problem is we think they should be about an ideology. I don't think they're about an ideology. I think the purpose of a local church is to gather people together for worship, fellowship, service, and then hopefully also for spiritual and personal growth. Now, there's all kinds of problems with that, but that's fine. But that's the purpose of it. Mm-hmm. In my view, if the pastor and the leadership are enforcing a particular ideology, you've given away the thing to begin with. Mm. Then it's not a church. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I see that.
It's an institution of, mind control or something.
Yeah, it's a cult or something.
Yeah, exactly. But you do gather around practices. You gather around particular purposes. I would say those kinds of things.
Yeah.
That's the way I would frame it.
Yeah.
I think that when church works really, really well, there is an emotional difference between the stuff you do, going back to the first century, the stuff you do at the temple, which is offer sacrifices, give, worship, those kinds of things, and the stuff you do as the group, which is the taking care of each other, right?
Yeah.
And that's where the small town church makes a whole lot of sense.
Right, sure.
You gather together, you sing, you get talked to, you pray, and then you go off and you take care of each other. Mm-hmm. We don't tend to take care of each other at all anymore.
Right.
And so getting people to gather for the purpose of taking care of each other is like very close to zero, unless they're doing it with people they already care about getting together with.
Yes.
Right? So that's a pre-existing set of relationships. Okay. So then the question is, and this is actually where I first started when I was thinking about this, when we were talking about church in general. Suppose you are part of a church community. Mm-hmm. When do you try to make changes and when do you leave? Like, let's say that this is important to you and it is important to have those connections. Maybe you haven't been abused, but you're not happy with the way things are going.
Right.
Or the pastor has said something that you really disagree with. Or, I don't know, to take, to me, a kind of a petty level thing. You have an illness. You don't tell anybody you have an illness. And you're pissed off because nobody called you.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like the idea that if you're not there, they should be noticing and reaching out to you, which makes sense if you're in a small group that actually takes care of each other. But if all you all do is show up on Sundays, then the fact you're not there on a Sunday could mean you went out to brunch. That's my particular view of this, right? So what of those things should you try to address with the church leadership? And when should you say, yeah, I'm picking up my toys and I'm leaving?
I don't know. I remember having a conversation with you when you and I first met, honestly, and we were first doing kind of ministry work together in worship. And I was having some frustrations. And I remember kind of posing that question, when do you know it's time to move on? And I seriously wanted to know the answer. I had been in the position I'd been in for quite a while. Some of my frustrations had to do with being on a church staff, but a lot of them had to do with the fact that I didn't feel like my soul was being fed.
Right.
And I think that's a legitimate concern. I think if you go to church wanting to learn, wanting to grow, and that's not happening, and there's no indication that the teaching, whether it's from the pastor or Sunday school or wherever you're plugged in and hoping to receive what you need, when it becomes clear that you're not going to receive what it is you need, I think anybody should take a look at that and say, okay, if I stay here, I may have my fellowship needs met. I may be able to work in the food pantry every week, and that's important. I may be able to give people rides to church, and that's important. But at the end of the day, if all I'm doing is giving and serving and doing, and in return I'm not receiving anything that feeds my soul other than the satisfaction and the contentment from helping others,
sure.
which is important too, that's an important indicator that you probably should move on.
I don't think so. I think that the idea that a single local community is going to satisfy all your needs is kind of silly. So instead, I would say, if you have connections with the people there, and again, there's no abuse, you're not affronted every week when you go because, whatever, but just you're not getting fed, using that language, you're not growing. There are plenty of opportunities to grow spiritually in parachurch organizations and other kinds of organizations, working with spiritual directors, doing our stuff, there are lots of ways to do that where you don't have to leave that community in order to also have this other stuff. You can do both, right? And I think at that church we used to serve, one of the things that certainly shifted for me, was the fact that when we started doing the School for Seekers thing, it gave another dimension to that location, to that
it certainly
thing,
did. Right.
So it meant that you could participate in that, or, there was some combination of things you could do where it wasn't just the one thing.
Yeah.
So I think that if you value a local church at all, assuming that it isn't constant affront or constant whatever, then if it really is about, the pastor's gone so far on their own spiritual maturity, you're not going to go farther than the pastor. I firmly believe that on your own. Then, there are plenty of ways to get that stuff from other places. So I wouldn't suggest leaving for that reason. I would look at what's going on here. What's going on for me?
Yeah.
Am I just frustrated? Is the rest of my life frustrating?
And that's where I would go with it, is if you're going to church and that's a frustrating thing for you.
Right.
I mean, you're going to be distracted by it every time you go in the door.
Right. And it could be, though, I think it's important as part of being a faithful person is to look at yourself and say, okay, so what am I doing?
Oh, yeah.
But
Absolutely,
a lot of people don't, right? A lot of people immediately go, the pastor isn't taking care of me.
No.
And then they leave, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I think there are other things too. So if you're not seeing the opportunities that you need to do this, that, or the other, I think it is the job of the church leadership to make a safe place and a nurturing place for you to bring that to them and to try and find ways to solve that.
Yeah.
And if they haven't done that, that's a problem.
Yeah.
But if they have, assuming they're basically well-intentioned people who want to do right, then you take it and you say, let's see if we can solve this together.
Sure.
How can we do this? What does that look like?
Yeah.
And that's just part of being in a relationship. I think that being part of a community, any community, is like being in any other kind of relationship. If you don't just dump it because you got your nose out of joint, and you don't just dump it because you're not growing in the way you think you should be growing right at that moment, right? You find whatever you need to do that, and try to keep building your life in both those places, in all the ways that you can. I do think, though, all that said, that when none of it seems to fit really anymore, and you've taken it to church leadership or to your comrades in that group, and there just doesn't seem a way to kind of find a way to work with this, it's completely reasonable to say, I need to do something different. But I would hope, frankly, that would be kind of a sad thing.
Oh, sure. It should be a sad thing if you've been really committed to this local
group
body.
Of people.
Yeah, and you realize that it's time to go. It's just like selling your house and moving away.
Yeah.
It's going to be kind of bittersweet. It's going to be sad.
Yeah. And when I say that, I don't think that everybody needs to be full on committed to a single church either. That's in no way what I'm saying.
Right.
But if you are, and you're trying to
are.
figure out whether to stay or not, those are the things I would think about, I guess. What do you think?
I don't disagree with anything you said. I think that for me, because my journey from where I used to be to where I am now, this would not have happened if I'd stayed in the same church. There were things that were clearly missing that I didn't even realize were missing,
right,
for me. And so moving away from evangelicalism opened up a whole new world for me.
And you didn't just drop out of evangelicalism.
No, I did not.
And I think that there's something to be said for that, though.
Mm-hmm.
I think you tried on other things, tested other things, held to your commitments.
I did.
Pushed the boundaries on those things,
I did.
try and expand them. And then when that no longer fit and you had other options, that's when you made the move.
Oh, yeah.
But that's different than just saying, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not happy.
Oh, right. No.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think ideally, if you're leaving one local community, you're going to something, not just from something.
Absolutely right.
I hope that while you're in the local community, if you need more or different, you bring that to yourself while you stay in the commitments of that local community. And then you move to something else that, I believe that we will change our direction and our paths many times, or at least our locales many times in our journeys.
Yeah.
But what I don't want to see personally is our difficulty in having any kind of relationship.
Yeah.
Truly, any kind of relationship, mean that we just dump communities because we get tired of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that going back to what you said at the beginning, that's one of our big challenges.
It's a huge challenge right now because people are, again, distracted and they're not finding, in my view, deep, committed relationships anywhere.
Yeah.
And because we're just more and more isolated. And local churches suffer for that.
Yes.
Because people are not willing to put themselves, even just in the social aspects of it, and they're not willing to get their hands dirty. They're just, it's a sad thing for local churches. And I'm not sure what we do about that.
Yeah.
I don't think that the ways that churches have tried to reach out and bring people in work anymore.
Yeah. Well, that was encouraging.
Sorry, listeners. We love hearing from you. And we still believe that local churches are important.
Yep.
And, the Holy Spirit's going to do what she's going to do. And I do believe that on the flip side of where we are right now as a society, there's change.
Yes, agreed.
And there's hope. And so the church in 10 years may look different. But in some ways, it won't ever be different.
You just went to the Universal Church.
Yep.
You just jumped right out of the local church into the Universal
I sure
Church.
did. Did you see what I did?
That was gorgeous. I love that. Thank you very much.
Listeners, cocktailtheology.com is where we are. Give us ideas for topics, cocktails, or mocktails, or whatever.
Or murky.
Or Murktails. Till next time, y'all.
Bye.
Funny how the view can change, how life just seems to rearrange itself. No matter what it was, I don't know how it goes, but look, moving on feels pretty good. Moving on feels pretty good.
If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a like and hit subscribe wherever you're listening right now. We welcome your comments, questions, and ideas for conversations and for cocktails. Please get in touch with us at our website, cocktailtheology.com. Cocktail Theology is a production of SFS. Our theme song is Moving On Feels Pretty Good, recorded by yours truly, Benton Stokes. You can find my music wherever you stream your favorite artists. Join us next Thursday for another new episode.